June 1999, a warehouse on Chicago's South Side. 17 Latino gangs gathered for peace. La Tabla, they called themselves. The Spanish Mafia. Every shot caller, every chief, every crown holder in one room. The Chicago outfit watched from the shadows, their blessing and muscle behind this experiment in organized Latino crime. Then a maniac Latin disciple pulled his piece and shot another MLD. Not a rival, not an enemy, his own brother in arms. The violence left its mark as chaos erupted. The outfit's representative didn't say a word. He just walked out. In that moment, the Spanish Gangster Disciples' dream of unity died. That peace conference collapsed in blood. Sociologist John Hagedorn would later write, "The Spanish Mafia experiment was over." This is the story they don't tell you about Chicago streets. Not the Bloods versus Crips narrative everyone knows. Not even the GDs and BDs that dominate today's drill music. This is about the Spanish Gangster Disciples, SGDs, who had it all and lost everything. They started with noble intentions in 1981. Rudy Rios, a visionary who saw beyond corner drug sales, founded them at 87th and Houston. He got Larry Hoover's blessing, got the Milwaukee Kings' permission, built something that wasn't supposed to exist. Latino folk unity backed by Italian muscle. By 1989, they controlled 17 gangs. Each kicked up $10,000 a month. They had constitutions, bylaws, monthly meetings. The Chicago outfit treated them as equals, not corner boys. They called it Spanish growth and development, emphasis on growth, not gangbanging. Today, 3 SGD members face the federal death penalty for carjacking murders. No territory, no structure, no respect. Just scattered crews claiming a dead nation's name, killing for stolen credit cards. How do you go from mafia-backed empire to federal death row? Ask Demon. Ask the ghosts of 3 assassinated leaders. Ask the FBI agents who couldn't believe what they were seeing in 2020. Gang members so lost, they murdered civilians for Lexuses. This is that story. 1981, South Chicago. The corner of 87th and Houston wasn't just another block. It was about to become ground zero for Latino organized crime's greatest experiment. Rudy Rios wasn't your typical gang chief. While other shot callers fought over corners, Rios studied the Black Gangster Disciples structure. He watched Larry Hoover build an empire from a prison cell. He saw what organization could do. "I need to holler at Shaky," Rios told his lieutenant one night. Laureano Shaky Ramos ran the Milwaukee Kings. You didn't start a new folk gang without his blessing. The sit-down was brief. "You're not stepping on our territory?" Shaky asked. "We're building something different," Rios responded. "Spanish growth and development. Not another street gang, a movement." Next came Larry Hoover himself. The chairman of the Black Gangster Disciples reviewed Rios's proposal from Stateville Correctional Center. His response came back through channels. "The Spanish Gangster Disciples are recognized." Rios recruited from retiring Royal Knights and Saints, guys who'd already proven themselves but wanted structure, not chaos. The first constitution was 12 pages, literature packets, rank structure, the 6-pointed star and pitchfork, modified with Spanish symbols. By 1983, they'd established a North Side branch at Rosemont and Broadway in Edgewater. Rogers Park, Uptown, Albany Park. Each set had to memorize the lit, had to attend meetings, had to understand this wasn't about selling drugs on corners. This was about power. "We ain't gangbangers," an original SGD member would later testify. "We were businessmen. Every violation went through proper channels. Every tax collected got receipted. We kept books like the outfit taught us." The outfit. That connection came in 1989, but the groundwork started here. While Latin kings fought cobras in bloody wars, SGDs built infrastructure. While MLDs and Spanish Cobras killed each other over disrespect, SGDs held financial planning meetings. They called their territory from 87th to 89th, Houston to Baltimore, the danger zone, not because of violence, because of discipline. Cross them and you didn't get shot on sight. You got a violation hearing, due process. That scared the streets more than random violence ever could. But Illinois prisons were churning out a different breed, younger, Hungarian, and one of them, a former Latin eagle everyone called Demon, was about to destroy everything Rios built. The crack epidemic hit Chicago like a tsunami in the late 80s. Every gang had to make a choice, stay noble and starve, or get rich and lose your soul. The Spanish Gangster Disciples thing, money. Enter Demon. Real name scrubbed from public records, but his reputation survives in federal files and street testimonies. Former Latin Eagle turned SGD enforcer. When the original 7 Northside SGD founders got swept up in a federal case, Demon saw opportunity. That dude taxed everything, a former SGD told investigators. You sold a dime bag, Demon wanted $2. You moved weight, he wanted 20%. Didn't matter you were his own nation, he treated SGDs like marks. Demon's genius was expanding. He sought suburban kids, Schaumburg, Des Plaines, Hoffman Estates. These weren't street soldiers. They were middle-class Latino kids who wanted to bang part-time. They paid their taxes without question because they didn't know any better. Then came the betrayal that would define everything. From his cell, Antonio D. Quintero, who'd assumed SGD leadership after Rios, tried to maintain order. His orders were clear: stop taxing our own, stop the wars with folk allies. Demon's response: he declared war on his former gang, the Latin Eagles, a folk nation ally. He greenlighted Imperial Gangsters, another folk family. He ordered hits on maniac Latin disciples who questioned his authority. You gotta understand, explained John Hagedorn, who interviewed dozens of SGDs. Demon represented everything the founders opposed, but he had the guns, the connections, and most importantly, he had the streets while the real leadership sat in cells. 1989 changed everything. The Chicago outfit, watching this Latino discipline, made an offer: reorganize under a new structure, La Tabla, the table. 17 Latino gangs would unite under the SGD umbrella. Each gang would maintain autonomy, but pay $10,000 monthly to a central fund. The outfit would provide protection, wholesale drug prices, and most importantly, legitimacy. We were going to be like the Italians, an SGD lieutenant recalled. Real organized crime, no more gang-banging nonsense. We'd have lawyers, businesses, political connections. The Spanish Gangster Disciples became the head of this new federation. Latin Dragons, Orchestra Albany, Imperial Gangsters, Spanish Cobras, even rivals agreed to sit at the table. Monthly meetings were held in restaurants the outfit protected. Robert's Rules of Order governed discussions. They voted on everything from drug territory to homicide contracts. But underneath this corporate structure, the streets were bleeding. Demon's taxation created resentment. His unauthorized wars sparked retaliation. And somewhere in South Chicago, someone decided Rudy Rios had to die. The first assassination was coming, and with it, the beginning of the end. The murder of Rudy Rios remains Chicago's most consequential unsolved gang assassination. Wikipedia claims 1995, but the Chicago Tribune reported him dead by March 1993. Court documents place it between 1991 and early 93. Nobody's talking, even 30 years later. They found him in SGD territory, a CPD detective familiar with the case revealed. Multiple gunshots, close range, execution style. The killer knew him, trusted him enough to get close. No arrests, No suspects named publicly, but the streets knew. This wasn't an enemy hit. This was internal. The Spanish Gangster Disciples founder, the visionary who got Larry Hoover's blessing, was killed by his own. Rudy Guzman stepped up. Rios's hand-picked estate lasted exactly 43 days. Shot dead in broad daylight, corner of 88th and Baltimore. Again, no arrests. The pattern was clear. Someone was cleaning house. After Guzman got dropped, everything split, testified a cooperating SGD member in federal court. Quintero tried running things from the joint, but Lil D had the streets. And Demon? Demon had his own agenda. Lil D, not to be confused with Antonio D. Quintero, controlled day-to-day operations. Young, charismatic, and crucially, he understood what Quintero couldn't see from his cell. Demon was cancer. Together, they hatched a plan. Remove Demon, reunify the SGDs, return to Rios's original vision. But prison walls have ears, and Demon had money to pay them. The first crew came from Schaumburg, a suburban SGD demonstrated under immunity. Demon gave us the address, said Lil D was a rat, needed to go. We drove by, shot the whole porch up, missed him. That was 8:30 p.m. By midnight, Lil D was dead. Different crew, different firearms, but same order giver. The official story, rival gang retaliation. The truth, Demon had just executed the last legitimate SGD street leader. After Lil D, Demon crowned himself chief, explained Hagedorn. That title didn't exist in SGD literature. He literally invented it. Nobody could challenge him. Everyone who tried was dead. March 30th, 1993, Operation Houston struck like lightning. 7 high-ranking SGDs arrested at their founding corner, 88th and Houston. The prize, Antonio D. Quintero himself, trying to maintain control from the streets after making bail on an earlier charge. That particular street gang is now out of business, declared CPD Superintendent Matt Rodriguez at the press conference. Reporters counted the evidence: 2 handguns, 21 bags of PCP, multiple undercover firearm purchases. Rodriguez didn't know about the 3 assassinations, didn't know Demon still controlled the north side, didn't understand he'd only grabbed one faction of an already fractured nation. Federal prosecutor Thomas Durkin would later describe it differently. Operation Houston severely crippled all South Side SGD operations. The North Side, that was Demon's kingdom. We didn't even know he existed yet. The power vacuum was absolute. Original SGD territory became a free fire zone. The Ambrose Nation, smelling blood, moved on 87th and Houston. The SGD's response shocked everyone. They simply granted it. No war, no retaliation, just surrender. We gave them the corner, an SGD admitted years later. What were we going to do? Our founder was dead, our leaders were dead or locked up. Demon was taxing us to death. The sacred corner where Rio started everything, we just let it go. But the real devastation was coming. The War of the Families, a conflict that would kill hundreds and destroy Tabla from within, was about to begin, and Demon, sitting in his Northside office counting tax money, would watch it all burn with a smile. The Spanish Gangster Disciples were about to learn, when you execute your fathers, you orphan your future. The aftermath of Operation Houston left a power vacuum that couldn't be filled. With Antonio D. Quintero sentenced to 27 years, federal time, and the South Side leadership decimated, the Spanish Gangster Disciples fractured beyond repair. But the real war wasn't coming from rivals. It was coming from within La Tabla itself. The War of the Families erupted in 1994, not between enemies, between supposed allies sitting at the same table. The Latin lovers wanted to switch from the maniac family to the insane family. Sounds like internal bureaucracy? People died over this vote. David Ayala sold his vote for 2 kilos and 10 firearms, court documents reveal. The insane family allegedly kidnapped him to swing the Latin lovers their way. When maniac Latin disciples discovered the betrayal, violence became the only response that mattered. Robert Daytre, a respected MLD leader, called an emergency meeting to resolve the dispute. Babyface Nelson Padilla, a Latin lover, walked in with a .38 special. One shot to Daytre's head ended the negotiation. The first domino fell. Then came Prince Rick Dog, the first MLD prince ever killed by his own nation, not by Latin kings, not by Spanish cobras, by maniac Latin disciples who believed he'd grown weak. They held and killed him over several hours, sending a message about the cost of perceived softness. February 1996 was hell, a CPD gang specialist recalled. 7 people shot in 48 hours, all maniac versus insane, all supposedly Tabla brothers. The peace treaty was a joke. John Hagedorn documented the carnage. Hundreds of Chicago gang members died in these internal wars. The Spanish Gangster Disciples, supposed to be the leadership holding everything together, couldn't control the situation. They were too busy fighting their own civil war. Demon's Northside SGDs battled Quintero loyalists for legitimacy. Southside SGDs, leaderless and directionless, splintered into neighborhood cliques that barely acknowledged each other. The suburban sets in Schaumburg and Des Plaines went completely rogue, keeping all profits, paying no taxes, recognizing no central authority. By 1997, the unthinkable happened. The Spanish Gangster Disciples couldn't even hold their founding territory. The almighty Ambrose, sensing fatal weakness, moved on 87th and Houston, the sacred corner where Rudy Rios had started everything in 1981. The remaining SGDs didn't fight back. They couldn't. They simply, in the words of one member, granted it to Ambrose and walked away. "We gave up the Holy Land," an original SGD stated with disgust. "Rudy Rios's corner, where it all started, the place we called the danger zone. We just handed it over without firing a shot." Gentrification struck the north side next. The power base at Early and Wayne in Edgewater, gone. Luxury condos replaced drug houses. Coffee shops replaced stash locations. The SGDs got pushed west into Albany Park, scattered and fractured beyond any hope of reunification. La Tabla still held monthly meetings, but it became pure theater. Empty chairs marked where assassinated leaders once sat. Shouting matches replaced Robert's rules of order. Accusations of informants, theft, and betrayal filled every gathering. Nobody trusted nobody, Hagedorn documented. The outfit representatives would show up, see the chaos, and leave without saying a word. They knew it was finished before the gang members did. The Spanish Gangster Disciples went from 17 unified gangs paying tribute to dozens of wayward crews, claiming the name without understanding its meaning. No literature was being taught. No structure remained. No purpose existed except day-to-day survival. The organization that once had constitutions and treasurers now had members who couldn't even explain what growth and development meant. And in Albany Park, a new generation was coming up. Young men who never knew Rudy Rios, never read the 12-page Constitution, never understood the vision of Latino organized crime. They only knew one thing: violence without purpose. Edson Savage Resendez, Maverick G. Reckless. They were about to show Chicago what happens when a gang loses its soul completely. September 11, 2020, Morton Grove, Illinois, a suburban parking lot outside a strip mall. Edson Savage Resendez and Maverick G. Reckless. Sellers spotted their target, a random motorist, wrong place, wrong time. This wasn't about territory or respect or drug money. This was about stealing a Honda Civic. These ain't your daddy's SGDs, a federal prosecutor would later state at the arraignment. These are predators without purpose. This was among the leaders of what remained of the Spanish Gangster Disciples. Think about that. A leader, carjacking civilians in strip mall parking lots for used cars. Rudy Rios was rolling in his grave. Larry Hoover's blessing meant nothing. The outfit's partnership, a distant memory. September 13th, another carjacking, different parking lot. Resendez pressed his 9mm against a woman's stomach while Priscilla Apresa, his girlfriend, rifled through the victim's purse. They took the Lexus, her iPhone, and $43 cash. $43. The gang that once collected $10,000 monthly from 17 organizations was now robbing women for gas money. Where's the growth and development in that? Asked former SGD Antonio Quintero from his federal prison cell. That's not organized crime. That's not even organized. That's just desperate shit with a nation's name attached. September 16th, 2 more carjackings in rapid succession. Then they shot Adam Likwe for the crime of walking down the street. Wrong neighborhood, wrong time. He survived barely with permanent injuries. The SGDs didn't even know his name. Court documents list him as random victim number 4, September 21st, 2020. The killing day, Eduardo Triano, 25 years old, standing outside his home in the early evening. The SGDs rolled up, windows down, pipes out, 13 shots fired, 5 hits connected. Triano died on his front lawn while his mother screamed from the doorway. No motivation, no gang affiliation, just another body. 2 hours later, different neighborhood. Nabil Mahuar refused to give up his car keys. Most victims comply. It's just property, not worth dying for. Insurance handles it. But Mahuar fought back, tried to defend what was his. The SGDs shot him fatally during the carjacking, collapsed between 2 parked cars. In the span of 2 weeks, the federal indictment reads, the defendants committed 3 murders, 2 attempted murders, and 7 carjackings, demonstrating a pattern of escalating violence without strategic purpose. Without strategic purpose, that's Fed speak for these idiots were killing for nothing. February 2024, the Department of Justice dropped the hammer. RICO charges, death penalty eligible. 3 SGD members facing federal execution for what amounted to a teenage crime spree with bodies attached. The government was seeking lethal injection for stolen Hondas and Lexuses. The Spanish Gangster Disciples once sat at tables with the Chicago outfit, noted gang historian John Hagedorn. They held monthly meetings with Robert's Rules of Order. Now they're facing lethal injection for stolen cars. That's not decline. That's complete annihilation of organizational identity. The feds recovered their communications during the investigation. Text messages between SGD members. No codes, no structure, no encryption. Just, let's go commit robberies and I need gas money and pull up. The same organization that once used encrypted beepers and spoke in Masonic codes was now planning homicides in Facebook Messenger. Prosecutors presented chat logs in court. The planning of Eduardo Triano's murder took less text than ordering pizza. Nabil Mahuar's death was discussed with laughing emojis. This is what remained of Spanish growth and development. No growth, no development, no vision, no structure, just savage, reckless violence that would make their founders weep. Just bodies and stolen cars and federal death sentences. June 1999, the location remains sealed in court documents, but old-timers know it was a restaurant in Melrose Park, outfit territory, neutral ground. Every shot caller from Tabla's 17 gangs sat around a table that cost more than most of them made in a month. This was supposed to save us, a former Latin dragon recalled. Stop the bleeding, unite the families, get back to business. The Chicago outfit sent their representative, an old Sicilian who'd survived the family secrets trial. He sat quietly, watching these Latino gang leaders argue over who disrespected whom, who owed what, whose cousin got shot by whose brother. Then it happened. A maniac Latin disciple, drunk on power and probably literal alcohol, pulled his piece, not on an enemy, not on an insane. On another MLD, his own family. The firearm barked twice in that enclosed space. The blood splattered on the table, Hagedorn wrote. Literally and symbolically, Tabla collapsed in a pool of blood. The outfit representative stood up, straightened his tie, and walked out without a word. No goodbye, no threats, just done. The message was clear. If you can't maintain peace at a peace conference, you're not worth our time. Within hours, the word spread through Chicago streets. The outfit had withdrawn all support. No more wholesale drug prices. No more political protection. No more arbitration. The Spanish Gangster Disciples and their coalition were on their own. We became just another street gang, admitted a former SGD chief. Worse than that, we became a joke, the gang that had everything and threw it away. By 2000, the SGDs existed only in fragments. Albany Park still had crews claiming the nation, some scattered sets in the suburbs, but no central leadership, no monthly meetings, no literature. Kids were throwing up the fork and star, not knowing what it meant. The mighty Spanish Gangster Disciples, who once collected 10,000 monthly from 17 gangs, were reduced to fighting over corners with newly formed hybrid gangs. The organization that had constitutions and treasurers now had members who couldn't even spell growth and development. Today, 2025, you won't find SGD mentioned in Chicago drill music. Chief Keef doesn't shout them out. They're not in any documentaries about Chicago violence. They're a footnote, a cautionary tale told in federal indictments. 3 members await federal execution. A handful claim corners nobody wants. The 6-pointed star and fork, once symbols of Latino unity and power, now mark abandoned buildings and forgotten dreams, from mafia recognition to death row, from political influence to carjacking civilians, from Spanish growth and development to savage, reckless destruction. The Spanish Gangster Disciples didn't lose a war, they self-destructed. The Spanish Gangster Disciples had everything. The Chicago outfit's blessing, the same organization that controlled judges, politicians, and police. 17 unified gangs paying tribute, a constitution predating most tech company handbooks, leaders with vision, soldiers with discipline, and a dream of transforming street gangs into legitimate organized crime. They lost it all to themselves, not to the FBI. Operation Houston barely dented them. Not to rivals. The Latin Kings never defeated them. They destroyed themselves through greed, betrayal, and blood. Every gang thinks they're different, a retired Chicago detective observed. The SGDs actually were different. They proved organization could work, then they proved why it usually doesn't. Today, federal prosecutors aren't targeting an organized crime syndicate. They're charging street criminals who kill for car keys, 3 assassinated leaders, a coalition drowned in blood, an empire that collapsed not from external pressure, but internal rot. Their founders dreamed of growth and development. Their successors delivered savagery and recklessness. Between those extremes lies the corpse of what could have been Chicago's most powerful criminal organization. The Spanish Gangster Disciples stand as proof that in the streets, as in history, every revolution eventually devours its own children, from nobility to nothing, from empire to execution. Remember that,